Hey everyone, welcome back to iHeart Sports. I'm Alex Hart, and today we're going to start our six-part series of the MLB 2020 season previews. We're going to kick things off with the AL East, the division that hits closest to home with me. If you watch my bias videos, you're either at the bottom or you're at the top when it comes to the AL East. And we're just going to jump in. We're going to look at some of the trades, some of the free agent signings they did in the offseason, as well as what their 2020 projected lineup is according to the MLB. The order I'm choosing to go through this, I'm going to go through based on the projected wins by Vegas. So we're going to start off in the very bottom with the Baltimore Orioles. Now, before we do that, please take the time and hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be following the MLB all season long, 60-game season, followed with the postseason, as well as other sports, so make sure you're following this channel. The Baltimore Orioles finished last season with 54 wins. This year, Vegas has them again in the bottom of the AL East with 21.5 wins projected, which is just over one-third of their games. The Orioles made two notable pickups in the free agency. They picked up Jose Iglesias as well as Carl Stewart. Now let's take a look at the Orioles, their projected lineup as of the MLB a couple days ago. Their starting rotation, I'm going to be honest with a lot of the viewers here. A lot of these players I know nothing about realistically, other than Chris Davis, who has been a trademark in the Orioles lineup for a decade really at this point. Jose Iglesias, who's a free agent signing, appears to be the biggest name that I even recognize in this lineup. So for me, with the projected Vegas numbers as well, I don't anticipate a lot of action, a lot of offense in that from this lineup. A lot of young players, I'm sure, without going too much into research in that. It's a very young looking lineup. The pitchers, again, no one really stands out. A lot of the names have been around in the MLB at least for a few years. Cole Stewart there in number 5 slot. Again, a free agent signing. Alex Cobb really to be the only one that I've seen have a pretty good year. So me personally, I'm not expecting a lot out of the Orioles lineup. And I don't think Vegas is either, so I'm going to go ahead with Vegas on this one and agree that they are very likely going to be in the bottom of the division. However, I'm interested to see which players on this list I will know by the end of the season as opposed to right now. On top of looking over that, I wanted to look at the injury list for the O's as well. Specifically, Jose Iglesias is actually questionable for the start of the season. Trey Mancini, who was on the roster last year and the years before, he's expected to be out until at least November, so the whole season. He's still recovering from colon cancer surgery. The Orioles did have the number 2 pick where they picked Heston Kjerstad. Don't know too much about this. Prospects has never really been my specialty. However, being picked number 2 is always a good sign. I watched an interview with him. He seems like a very young kid, so I would be pretty surprised to see him out there this year. But stranger things have happened. But that's definitely going to be a name that I keep an eye out for the Orioles going in the future and see if anything happens from that. And that basically wraps up the Orioles in a nutshell. For me, not a lot of excitement. I'm interested if there's anyone that watches this that's an O's fan. Let me know what your thoughts are. Maybe let me know on some things that I should be keeping my eye out for. Next up, according to Vegas, is the Toronto Blue Jays. Last year, the Toronto Blue Jays had a total of 67 wins. This year, it looks like they're projecting some big improvements, 28 wins, considering that the schedule for the American League is against the East of the NL and the AL. They do have one of the tougher schedules. So to be 500, I think, is a good improvement over last year. Now, Blue Jays fans, we're used to 500. I know deep in our hearts that we are hoping for much better than this, and that really has to do with this young core that we're building and a couple of interesting signings that we had in free agency. The Blue Jays really got focused on getting some starting pitching. They went out and got Tanner Roark, who is been an MLBer for a number of years now. They also went out and got Ryu from last year's Dodgers, who is slated to be their number one pitcher this year. On the field, the free agent they picked up was Travis Shaw. Expecting right now he's going to slot into third base, but let's look at where we expect the Toronto Blue Jays to really slot in on opening day. Taking a look here at the Toronto Blue Jays projected lineups by MLB, obviously there's going to be some changes on here. Bo Bichette, Biggio, Gurriel Jr., all those guys are kind of set up to be in utility roles. Teoscar Hernandez, Grichuk, again, kind of setting people up to be in utility roles. And that really goes along with the Toronto Blue Jays' number 5 pick this year. Austin Martin was signed and potentially could be playing in this lineup. He's slotted and played shortstop, but he's also played all over the field. So it's really going to be interesting to see how the Blue Jays manage their roster this season. Taking a look at the pitchers, the top 4 here have been around the MLB for quite some time. I'm most interested to see how Ryu adapts to this league as well, but most importantly, I'm looking to see how Shoemaker bounces back from his injuries, because prior to that, he was really having an amazing season and was really helping carry the load the Jays were going through a little bit. Taking a look at Toronto Blue Jays injured reserve list at this point, some key names: Brendan Drury, again, a utility player. It's going to be kind of interchangeable throughout the Jays roster. Ryan Baruki, expected to have been competing for a starting pitcher job, if not being that 5th pitcher that we saw. He's questionable for the start of the season, could be in relief. I think he's been pitching in the interleague matches, so could very well expect him at the start. That pretty much wraps up the Jays, kind of what they're going into the season. I'm pretty confident that the number that Vegas lied is going to be pretty accurate to what the Jays are going to pull off this season. Anything better than that, I'll be happy and not super surprised, because with such a young batters lineup and a somewhat veteran building rotation, it's more than possible that the Jays could make a move this year. One thing that's going to really separate how the Jays play compared to any other team is the Canada factor. Not sure how the travel and all that is going to work out for them, because it has yet to be approved to play their home games for the season in this province. So I would not be surprised if some other thing comes up. They have to play somewhere in the States, or just to make that work. And that's really going to be the biggest question mark with the Jays as of right now. The rest, it's just going to be an enjoyable season to watch for this young team. Next team up, we have the Boston Red Sox. Last year, Boston had a 84-win season. I know for the most part it's pretty disappointing for the fans out there. 31.5 wins is what is being projected for this season, coming in 3rd in the AL East. Boston didn't make any crazy splashes when it came to free agency. However, all of the talk came when they traded their star all-star Mookie Betts over to the Dodgers. A lot of people question this trade. However, with only 1 year left on the Betts contract, I'm sure the management in Boston had an idea that Betts was not looking to re-sign, and they wanted to pull in some value while they could. The biggest name coming back from the Dodgers was Verdugo. Not 100% sure on that pronunciation, but they have him locked up for 4 years, and there was a couple other prospects that they also got back in return. Boston's free agent signings particularly were around 1 year contracts. Looks like they're just kind of looking to turn over this year, fill in some little roles here and there. Well, majority of their roster remains the same from last year, considering that they lost Mookie. So just to name some of the 1 year contracts, they re-signed Mitch Moreland, Martin Perez as a starter pitcher they picked up from Minnesota last year. He also used to pitch in Texas. Jose Pereza, I think, is a very exciting signing for them. I really look forward to watching more of him. I used to like watching him when he was on the Reds. Very dynamic player, definitely on the bases. Jonathan Lucroy was a signing. They also signed another catcher. Looks like they're kind of looking to see who is going to take that role, at least fill it for now. Kevin Pillar was a signing for them as well. When we jump in and look at what their starting day roster is, MLB doesn't seem to think he's on it, so it looks like he's just going to be a utility fill in where is needed in the outfield kind of player for them. Taking a look here, Alex Benintendi, Bogaerts, Devers, Martinez, top four of the order, pretty similar to what they had going on before, minus Mookie Betts. Verdugo's the guy that they traded for, so he's going to fit in right there. Looks like Vasquez still going to be the main catcher, so the other two catchers they picked up mainly for backups and minor league deals. Jackie Bradley Jr. still in center field. Pereza, they're going to fit him right at the bottom. So it's going to be a pretty strong wraparound lineup with some speed at the bottom of their lineup. Pitchers, we got Rodriguez, Eovaldi, Perez. Ryan Weber I'm not too sure about, but very important to note, Chris Sale will not be there for them this season. He's still recovering from Tommy John. Now, I didn't mention also in free agency they picked up Colin McHugh. I'm sure he's going to fit in right into their fifth slot or fourth slot there and be part of their starting rotation this season. Looks like Boston is going to have some trouble at the start with some starting pitching. Edward Rodriguez and Colin McHugh are at least out until August 2nd, so that's the first week and a half of baseball. With a short season, this could lead to some trouble for the Red Sox. If they get too many games behind, especially in the sprint that is a season, could be a quick wrap for them. Dustin Pedroia, the star second baseman for them, is out till at least September, which kind of makes sense. They're starting to get ready for their next plan. They drafted this year number 17. They went for a second baseman in Nick York, so excited to see where this leads to. I don't know if he'll be really playing at the beginning of this season. It's kind of interesting how the prospects are going to play for each team, but that's it for Boston. I'm going to get behind, and especially with the injuries that I've kind of just went over there, I think Boston is going to have a struggle getting to the 30 wins that is being projected. And if I were going to have to pick a side, I would say they're going to fall a little short. However, this team has a solid offense, and who knows, in baseball, when you can put up runs, you can sometimes compete with anybody. On to the Tampa Bay Rays, who were a little surprising to see them up this high for me. Just building off last year, they were, again, for me, a surprise to have performed so well. They're always somewhat trying to think outside the box, but manage their team with a limited cap compared to some of the other juggernauts in the division. This year, the Tampa Bay Rays are projected to have 34 wins. This is on top of last year. They had 96, which was another excellent season. The Rays didn't make any crazy splashes in the free agency, kind of to be expected with this kind of team and the way they're managed. They picked up a relief pitcher in Aaron Loup. I kind of note this because Loup was with the Jays for a very long time, kind of a lefty specialist. The other pitcher they picked up, Dylan Covey, don't expect him to make too much of a difference. And we'll just let's take a look at their lineup for the season. Taking a look at the Rays lineup, nothing really stands out as being huge, very scary, and anything like that. They did make a trade for Manuel Margot, trading one of their top pitching prospects. However, they're very strong in the pitching department. Expected to have one of the strongest relief pitching in all of the MLB. So they were kind of trading from a position of strength. Looks like to get Margot. I don't see him as a projected person in this lineup, but I would expect them to somehow utilize him. Why else would they be trading for him, really? Don't know what to expect. I expect a lot of close, low-scoring games from the Rays. Taking a look at their injury list, they seem to kind of have the same issues. Glasgow on the injury list. Austin Meadows, who was at the top of they're all questionable. These are all questionable to start the beginning of the season. Jose Martinez, Yanni Chirinos, Josh Lowe, Brendan McKay. It seems like it's going to be a big mixed match for me. So kind of with the same thing as the Red Sox, I expect them to be a little bit lower. Maybe I'm shifting some of the wins coming from Jays and that like that, but I do not see Tampa Bay being able to perform the way they did last year. However, it's going to be a season where anything can really go. Pitching is going to be a really big strength. Are the batters going to be able to catch up to the pitchers in such a short season? It could really prove to be a strength for Tampa Bay. Last, but certainly not least, the New York Yankees are here with one of the biggest projections for wins of all the MLB for this season, on top of having their killer season last year. Last year they put up 103 wins. This year, like I said, projected 37.5. This is one of the highest numbers in the MLB. No teams are above 40, which to me is a little bit of a surprise, but 37.5 for the Yankees. And certainly they should be able to get there based on the years before. The Yankees got what was one of the most sought-after free agents this season, Garrett Cole. They signed him to a huge deal and just added to their already lethal rotation. So I'm going to be with Vegas. I expect the New York Yankees to walk away with this division and be on top by the end of it. Taking a look here at their roster, I do note that LeMahieu is actually gone on to the IR. Judge is still a little bit questionable, but the rest of the lineup, I believe, is pretty much getting set up to go based on this starting lineup here. Very, very strong lineup. I'm not sure who's going to step up for LeMahieu, but we'll see when that comes along. Going down to the rotation, Garrett Cole tops it. Tanaka, he won't be starting at the beginning of the season like it says here. As we talked about in a previous video, he was hit by a Stanton line drive. Ouch, that's gotta hurt. And he's going to be, I think, out until at least August and maybe September. I forget. We'll take a look. James Paxton coming back from surgery, be a little bit of a question mark, but if he's anything of his former self, he'll be money for them. J.A. Happ, ex-Blue Jay, one of solid pitchers for us in the past. So if he can just bring anything to the Yankees, this team is definitely going to be the one to chase after in the AL. Now I want to take a look at the Yankees injured reserve list. It's a little bit important to note. Judge is questionable for the start of the season. LeMahieu is part of the whole coronavirus situation. It kind of has hit the New York Yankees recently, with Chapman being diagnosed after arriving at Yankee Stadium. So there's been a couple of cases in the Yankee organization in the past couple of days. Is this bigger than what meets the eye? It's only time's going to tell. Hopefully, no, that is not the case, and the Yankees are in the clear for now with related to injuries and people going off due to illness. Of note, it's important here, Severino, who was a pretty big cornerstone to the Yankees' success last year, he's going to be out for the whole season, and they're not going to be able to rely on his arm to help carry them. However, do they really need it? Their rotation's very, very strong. Their lineup's very, very strong, so they should have a pretty fun time going to the top on this one. And that pretty much wraps up the AL East. In a smallest of nutshells, I tried to hit as many major points for each of the 5 teams that I could. I am not able to follow every team into the perfect amount of depth, so if you're watching this video and you note something that I was wrong about or that I might have left out that you think is important to one of these 5 teams, please let us know. Let's keep the discussion going below in the comment section. Let me know what you think of some of my thoughts on my way out to lunch and things like that. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Look forward to the next 5 divisions coming out over the next 5 days, and we'll see you guys around. Thanks. Peace.